Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside Ashley Nicole Moss in our Florida studios and our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, who is still on location in Boston and has decided to spend more time in that town than the NBA champion Celtics, who left to go to Miami.
Love it here. I was invited on the flight. I missed the flight to Miami, so I'm still here, guys.
You missed the flight? Maybe they told you the wrong time, Bill.
They definitely gave me the wrong airport. This isn't an airport. This is Dunkin' Donuts. What's happening?
It's very strange. I do, as Ashley was mentioning. Go ahead.
No, I was saying I think it's a level of disrespect. We were talking about this off air that I aspire to have one day, to go ahead to the city of the team that beat us to go to the finals against Denver last year, lost, and then we come back a year later as world champions to party in that very city. Hats off to the Celtics. Hats off to the Celtics organization. That is a checkmate move if I've ever seen one. Well done. Credit where credit is earned.
Maybe they'll party in New York next year. When they beat the Knicks next year, maybe they'll party in New York City next year. Keep it moving.
Too far.
I love that. Although I wonder if I was like a Bostonian, how I would feel about the Celtics being like, we just won a championship. We have to get out of here.
I mean, you've lived in Boston.
I think they feel pretty okay about it. I think they feel pretty. I was just
down
there.
Also,
I think they're pretty.
John's lived in Boston. He understands why they would fly to Miami, right, John?
Boston is actually a very underrated city, and especially in the spring and the summer, like when it's not frozen, it's
partying.
Well, I mean, I'm not a club person. I'm talking about bars, restaurants. Aesthetically, it's really pretty when it's not covered in, when it doesn't look like Hoth, the ice planet. Around this time is really nice, but I understand why you'd want to go.
Brown are thinking about the aesthetics. I think they're just like, where can we go? And it's also, by the way, in fairness to the Celtics, part of the reason is there's a crazy heat wave here. It is extremely hot, and some of the folks that I was listening in were talking about when to plan the parade. The weather's going to break Thursday night, Friday morning, so it's also just a safer time to have
but Bill,
thousands of people outside.
They're not going. The Celtics aren't escaping the heat wave to go to Alaska. They're coming to Miami. It's hot down here. It is also 90 degrees down here. So
I can't believe it's hot. I can't believe it's hot in Miami in June. It's crazy. Well, anyway, so we're going to talk about the Boston Celtics later in the show. We will also ask whether Jrue and Big Al are now Hall of Famers, and we'll evaluate Luka and Kyrie and the Mavs. But as we mentioned, Boston Celtics are NBA champions. They take Game 5, 106-88. They take the series 4-1. It is their 18th championship. It is their first in 16 years. And Bill, they finished the season 80-21. That is the second best Celtics winning percentage ever.
And I think what is terrifying is, and this is not a shot, they played great. They can play better. They didn't score that many points over the course of the finals. Their points per game went down even in the playoffs. Usually takes a while to kind of figure out and get your groove when you play postseason basketball. Their defense is what carried them. They did not have a signature Jayson Tatum game. I think those are in there. I think those will happen. So, yeah, John, that's a dominating run. And they've got most of these guys under contract for the foreseeable future. The core is together. There will be some difficulties they have to navigate because of the way the CBA works now. But they'll be able to pay for what they know as a championship-level team, while other squads and other organizations will be hampered trying to chase these guys. I think it's not just a dominating run. I think, and they play in the Eastern Conference, which helps. They've set the stage to break your heart and to break your heart and to break the hearts of a lot of Eastern Conference teams, I think, for the next few years. That's just the Knicks' hearts.
Listen. Bill, I let you slide the first time. I'm not going to let you slide twice. I will die on this hill. I will keep saying this until September of later this year.
Are we going to do Knicks fan fiction again?
No. I will stand on the argument that if my Knicks were healthy, even without Julius Randle, if I was healthy even without Julius Randle, we could have pushed this series to 7 with the Boston Celtics. We were not the Dallas Mavericks. We had the shooters, we had the wing, we had the size, we had the defense. We could have pushed that series to 7, and I look forward to seeing them next year. I'm not scared of Boston. I wasn't scared of Boston if the Knicks were going to go ahead and face them. I'm not scared of them now. Congratulations. It's over now. We will see you next year. That's where I am.
Next year it is for the Knicks. Right now, though, the Boston Celtics are the NBA champions, and Jaylen Brown is the MVP. There was some question about. Yeah, look at that. And there was some question about Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum. We, the three of us, and our podcast producer, Aaron Larcel, had also said, hey, maybe Jrue could get a vote. Jrue did not get a vote. Jaylen Brown ended up winning 7-4, but it was pretty close. And afterwards, he talked about how really it could have been anybody.
I can't even put into words the emotions. It's just I'm blessed and I'm grateful. This was a full team effort. We had a great team. My teammates were great. They allowed me to lead us on both ends of the ball, and we came out and just performed on our home floor. It was just amazing. And it could have gone to anybody. It could have gone to Jayson. Jayson, I can't talk enough about his selflessness. I can't talk enough about his attitude and his just how he approached not just this series or the finals, but just the playoffs in general. And we did it together as a team. And that was the most important thing.
What a season for Jaylen Brown. This is a guy who not that long ago, people were questioning whether or not he was worth that max extension that he got, talking about how he couldn't go left. He was even saying, I haven't won anything. I never get these awards when he won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. And now he's Finals MVP as well, Ashley. We can get to the Tatum thing in just a second, but for Jaylen Brown, this was a huge moment.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a testament to the Celtics as a whole, really, just to stay the course, right? And to hustle your way and go through the trials and tribulations of what it takes to not only be a exceptional basketball player, but a world champion. And, we can go ahead and say a lot about the Boston Celtics fan base, and we do. We're not happy for the fans specifically, but I think it's very hard, and I tweeted this last night, it's very hard to dislike this group of Boston Celtics, and I think that's been a nice change from the Boston Celtics maybe of previous years. This is a team that you've really seen, especially when you talk about Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They've gone through it. They were drafted there together. They grew up together. They got better not only as men and individuals, but as players. They figured out what works, what doesn't work. And you've seen pieces around them move slightly here and there, but you've always seen those two stay the course and figure out a way to get better each and every year as a duo. And that's special to watch. I got to give credit to the Celtics organization for keeping them together, because I remember there was a lot of narratives and discourse maybe a few years ago, just even last year as well. Can these two guys play together, and should it be time to break them up? I was on the side of, you can't go ahead and get this far just to get this far. You have to go ahead and see what they can do. Obviously, Al Horford also 17 years in the NBA, his first NBA championship. Great to see Jrue Holiday. You can't help but be happy for him. Porzingis, as a Knicks fan, we have our relationship with Porzingis, but he's been through a lot. This is just a testament of a team that did the work and stayed the course, whether it was as individual players that are now on the same team or also as teammates for X amount of years. And you have to go ahead and give credit where credit is due in that regard. So, like I said, not happy for the Celtics fans, but it's really, really hard to not be happy for Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown specifically.
Yeah, and John, just to your point about Jaylen Brown, I think there's a lesson here. We'll talk later about the Mavs, but there's a lesson for Luka. There's a lesson for Kyrie. There's a lesson for anybody. Sometimes when you get close to the top of the mountain but don't quite get there, you come in for a lot of criticism. And you just noted that was true for Jaylen Brown. And not just last year. It's been true for a while. And instead of buckling under that or running from that or letting that affect him in a negative way, which can happen with athletes, with human beings, criticism, it's not fun. It's not easy. He went the other direction. And whatever was in his brain or his mental toughness or his offseason preparation or all the above, the guy was, A, worthy of being the MVP of these finals. And there were other guys that were too, but certainly worthy. More than worthy of being the Eastern Conference Finals MVP for that series for Boston. And so it's also just a reminder that even though it's hard to win championships and get close, if you are able to learn from some of the hardships and the criticisms that come, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, other folks that are on maybe aspiring to this, like Jaylen Brown did, you can flip the script. Like it is possible. Today is not every day, even if it feels like it sometimes.
I just like the way that Jaylen Brown handled himself throughout the entire playoffs. He played extremely well. While Jayson Tatum was having a little shooting slump, he just put his head down. He did the work, and then he said all the right things too. It just was a very impressive postseason from Jaylen Brown. We have to take a break. On the other side, I'm curious to see what you guys think about how the other guy who almost won MVP handled himself. because Jayson Tatum had a commercial ready to go. So we're going to play that for you guys after the break. This is Beyond the Arc. Bill's already laughing. It's pretty funny. This is CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You're watching CBS Sports Network with John, Ashley, and Bill. You can also find us in podcast form wherever you get your favorite shows. Please download, subscribe, leave us a review. I'm interested to see your review of Jayson Tatum's postgame last night for the two of you. I know, Bill, you might not have seen it. Ashley, I'm going to guess you did. But Jayson Tatum, they're interviewing him after the game. He said, he gets his back up about like the criticism that he might have gotten from other people. Some of us, we've been critical of him at times too. And he said, well, what are they going to say now? And then they go to break. And immediately after going to break, a commercial pops up that they had at the ready. We're going to play it. It speaks for itself.
Best player in the league, Jayson Tatum isn't even the best player on the
They all got plenty to say. That I don't have what it takes. That I'm not it. That I can't lead. Can't close. Can't win it all. Well, maybe they'll stop talking now. Then again, maybe it's best they don't.
Whoever
Ashley,
came up with that should be fired.
He filmed this commercial. I guess they just would have kept it in the can if they had lost. But I'm just kind of blown away by this. Ashley's making a face.
I don't get it. You know what I mean? Because it's not, we're talking about Jayson Tatum, third pick, first round out of Duke. So it's not like he was, I mean, you can say that, Ben Simmons went first and maybe the Lakers, and then who was it, Fultz went after him. So maybe like they regret that. Maybe he's referring to that. But I mean, we're talking about all the things that he was kind of saying in that commercial. You were an MVP, so I feel like this would have hit a little bit harder had you won Finals MVP, right? You weren't the best player on the floor throughout the entirety of the series. You were good, but it's not like you were the best player on the floor in every single game of the series, all 5 games. A lot of the games throughout the postseason, you did go missing. No one's ever said that Jayson Tatum wasn't a superstar. People question whether he's hit that extra tier, in the postseason where maybe he becomes more aggressive and less regressive and less of a team player and more of a leader. Fair criticism, because I think that those questions are still kind of valid because we didn't see that aggression from him, at least not in the entirety of this series. And we saw it in Game 5, like front court and center. But again, they were blowing him out by 40 at some points. It was kind of easy to just start raining threes. I don't get the commercial, so I don't know. Shout out to Jordan. Jordan brand, love their stuff, but I'm confused. That's all.
Gosh, I think he's bristling at legitimate criticism under the guise of being disrespected. Let's remember the media vote for these awards, right? This guy was first team All-NBA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was top 5. Right, was he top 5 MVP? He wasn't for me. So maybe I'm disrespectful.
He finished
I think he finished 5th. Yeah, he finished 5th, which means my colleagues, colleagues, the people that vote across the NBA, maybe he was
Jaylen who finished 5.
Yeah.
It was Jaylen who finished 5. He was first team All NBA. Yeah.
6 or 7, right, in the MVP voting. Point is, he's a top 10 player according to the people who cover the league. He's a first team All NBA player. He's widely celebrated, but we on this show and every other show that talks about hoops and fans are going to talk about the fact that he shot 39% from the field in the finals. John, you called it a little shooting slump, which is a really courteous and kind way to say I'll be mean. The guy was awful in terms of efficiency. He was a really impressive basketball player. My sort of view of him and the Celtics evolved as I watched them because they're not a traditional championship level team, and he's not a traditional level star, and that's fine. He's great, and they're obviously great. But I think Ash, he's mad that we pointed out that he hasn't been very efficient. He didn't get the awards that he wanted. He's obviously a little sensitive. That's fine, but to me, John, it was the whole commercial really was just an exclamation point behind his cornball turn last night. Where he's just it was so corny.
We're talking about a guy who was top 5 in MVP voting. We're talking about a guy All NBA. We're talking about a guy who's been a multiple-time All-Star. We're talking about a guy who's been to the conference finals or the finals the past 6 years. We're talking about a guy who is in the conversation about face of the league, whether people agree with it or not. He's in the conversation. We're talking about one of the best players in the NBA. We're now talking about a world champion. We're talking about a gold medalist who's going to be a gold medalist again when he goes to Paris for team. What are we talking about here? What is the not believing? What is the disrespect that he's alluding to? I don't understand. I don't understand that part.
What's the commercial next year if he's Finals MVP? I mean, I can't even get my mind around what they're going to have in the can next year.
I need someone to explain.
If he beats out Jaylen.
No, in all seriousness, like I just named off all the things, and there's more. I mean, signature shoes, commercials. I mean, what is the disrespect he's alluding to? Like, I don't.
Well, we did.
He's
question
obviously extremely
games.
sensitive.
Yeah, but there are some criticisms that that I've leveled that are real.
Criticism about
we have leveled
whether or not he's efficient or effective in a particular series. Can he close games? Is he, his shooting? Those are all fair things, but those are also isolated incidences based on a particular series or a particular game. As a whole, no one's ever said that Jayson Tatum was a scrub, a bum, I don't understand. Well, he's an all-star. Like, I don't know what we're talking about.
Let me play devil's advocate here for just a second, because from Jayson Tatum's perspective, he did have the best game of the series in the closeout, right? I mean, he went for 31, 8, and 11. He had 2 steals. That's the best stat line by a Celtic in a finals game since Larry Bird in 1986, which is pretty impressive. And also, he's the first player to lead an NBA champion in playoff scoring, rebounding, and assists, and not win Finals MVP. So I'm with you guys on the whole that, like, I don't know what he's talking about when he's talking about being disrespected. I mean, he's been amazing. At 26 years old, he also passed Kobe Bryant for the most points in playoff history before age 27. But when you look at the MVP voting, it ends up going to Jaylen Brown. So, like, I don't know if he's trying to motivate himself or if he's just hypersensitive or whatever, but he has achieved certain things and then, like, not gotten, like, the extra recognition that I think he desperately craves.
I feel, real quick, Bill, I feel like, okay, that graphic that we just showed is also based on an average, right? It's based on math, right? It's not always based on efficiency, which is why I hate when sometimes people use those things to kind of go ahead and push their point forward. Nobody's saying that Jayson Tatum didn't have the most points, rebounds, assists, but he didn't have the most effective points, rebounds, assists when they counted. When you look at Jaylen Brown, he was consistent and effective throughout the entirety of this series. So, yeah, like, if you want to just go ahead and look at it in a vacuum and just look at the numbers, sure, then Jayson Tatum should have won. But if you actually watched the game and you watched how each game progressed and how each quarter progressed, Game 1 was the Porzingis game. Game 2 was the Jrue Holiday game. But still, second up after that in those games was Jaylen Brown. Then you had Jayson Tatum.
Game 5, though.
Yeah, but they beat them by 30.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta push back on John here.
He was awesome.
Look, he was great, but he padded his stats at the end of the game. Fact. He started 0 for 4, 0 for 5
from 9
the field
assists in the
when they
first
were
half.
tight. Yeah, no, I watched the game. I was at the game. But his stats, his scoring stats that you're referencing, he was. What do you mean? I was at the game. I saw it. I know what happened. I saw the stats.
I know.
I'm aware. I'm just saying. Like, it's complicated. Just to point to the fact he scored 31 points, yeah, he was deserving of the Finals MVP. Just not as deserving, I think, as Jaylen Brown. But the notion that he had this amazing Game 5, I think it was a pretty evenly distributed level of excellence from all of those Celtics. I don't think it wasn't Jayson Tatum taking over that game and winning that game. A lot of his points came, and it's fine, good, keep the lead. After that, they had built up a 20-point lead. So it's not like he got wildly disrespected. He played really well, but a lot of guys played really, really well in that game for Boston.
I don't think he got wildly disrespected either. I was just simply throwing out, like, from a Jayson Tatum perspective, trying to figure out what in that guy's mindset. But this could also be one of those runs where, because you were saying, what's he going to say next year if he comes back and does something else, like, to add to his ledger here. This run that he's in right now is going to be something that's, like, pretty iconic. It's like the summer of Tatum. He just won a championship. He's going to get a max contract. He's going to be, as Ashley mentioned, on the Olympic team and win a gold medal. I mean, like, I don't know how he's going to prop up this straw man argument of, oh, woe is Jayson Tatum, I don't get enough respect, when he's going through a run like that.
I feel like that commercial would have hit harder if he was like a late first round draft pick and he was supposed to go top 3 and he, like, fell all the way to the bottom, or he was, you know what I mean? If he was like an underdog and, like, everyone was like, oh, he wasn't supposed to be in this league. He'll never win a chip. Like, it would have hit harder, but I mean, top 5, like, we went through all the accolades. I just feel like whatever criticism that there has been of Jayson Tatum has been fair, but it's also been isolated based on particular instances and performances. But I think that as a whole, people speak very highly of Jayson Tatum, very highly of his skill set, very highly of what he means to this league, what he means to this next generation of superstars, of leaders, of faces of the league. So, like, I get it. You kind of want to go ahead and just, like, your haters a little bit, but I just feel like this missed the mark. Just a tad. Just a tad. That's all.
I like, John, your point about the beginning, like the summer of Tatum. It might also just be the beginning of his level of excellence and the respect that he wants and the accolades and the awards. Maybe they're coming, because one thing about this Boston team and Tatum in particular is that if you talk to guys, which we all have, who have won multiple championships, and for me, I've actually had this conversation with LeBron James and Isaiah Thomas, they'll tell you the first championship, maybe it's not the hardest, but it's the one that teaches you the lessons that you actually need to unlock a lot more. You just sort of loosen up a little bit, apparently, once you win one of these. You look back at what you did well and what you did badly, and it's easier to do. It's like TV or anything. It's like golf. It's like anything, right? Reps. And once you've had the reps of winning a championship, guys will tell you it gets a lot easier to win more, kind of get that weight off your back. So there's also a world, again, not good news for either of your teams, but I think there's a world where not only is Boston more dangerous because they've done this, but maybe Tatum's a little more chill, a little more relaxed, a little less focused on getting a secret Nike commercial out about his disrespect,
Jordan,
and just feeling comfortable in his own skin. And next year, I wouldn't be surprised in the next 2 or 3 years if Boston wins more titles or gets close, if we have this same kind of experience with the Celtics, only Jayson Tatum's having massive games multiple times in series, because this might be part of that learning curve.
Jordan's first title, 29 years old. LeBron's first title, 27 years old. He's 26. So, yeah, he's got a lot of time left. 26? All right, another break.
Steph was older.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. He came into the league in 19. Yeah. Another quick break, and on the other side, we'll continue this conversation about the Boston Celtics and their 18th championship. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Be sure to check out our YouTube page. You can find that at Beyond the Arc CBS. Please subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. Celtics made history. They've won more than the Lakers. It's their second championship in the last 38 years. It feels like more. Fifth best combined point differential between the regular season and the postseason. Bill wrote about this. You should check out his story on CBSSports.com about how they're basically set up for a dynasty. I know Ashley does not like any of this. I don't like any of this. Nobody outside of Boston likes any of this. My question for you two is,
I disagree with it, though.
Who's most upset by this latest championship? And some possibilities include Lakers fans. I'm going to lump together Sixers and Knicks fans because we have a shared dislike for Boston.
Okay, I'll give you a pass.
One of my buddies in Dallas was like, what about Mavs fans? And then I'm just going to throw out a human being. Poor Marcus Smart. He had to watch this. But who's going to be the most upset by this latest championship?
Can I go off the list? I love all those.
Please.
And every one of those are feeling pain. I think as good as that night was for Boston, it was the worst night for John Horst. And I like John, who is the general manager of the Milwaukee Bucks, who hired the wrong head coach and then fired him in the middle of the season, brought in Doc Rivers, and it turns out the worst move that he made was actually the one from the summer when he sent Jrue Holiday to Portland with no notion, but whatever, it doesn't matter. He was going to make his way to Boston, because I don't know that Boston wins this thing if Jrue Holiday's not on that team. And there are several guys that's true for. They are
so good.
He's so good. I'm stealing this from Howard Beck. It's his, but like, they're an ensemble. Like, this Celtics team is an ensemble, and he is a critical piece of that. So, Ash, for me, like, I don't know who you point to. There's a lot of folks, and I like John Horst, but what a brutal moment for the GM who helped Boston not just win a title, but set the foundation to beat everybody, including the Milwaukee Bucks, in the years ahead.
So I won't say it's the Knicks 76ers fans, because I think that our disdain is for Boston the city and Boston the fan base, but not necessarily these Boston Celtics. I think that, like I said earlier, I think that there are a lot of guys on this team that are easy to root for. and that are easy to be happy for. You know, Jrue Holiday, Al Horford, Jaylen Brown. Also, Kristaps Porzingis has a love-hate relationship with the city of New York. There are a lot of New York Knicks fans who still really like Kristaps Porzingis and wish it would have went differently. So I don't know if it's so much about the Celtics, the team. It's about everything that the Celtics represent. So let's take that out of the equation. I'm going to go Lakers, and I'm going to say why. Obviously, the Lakers are now second when it comes to most championships. When you look at the Boston Celtics and you look at the Los Angeles Lakers, the Celtics are a much better position to continue going back to the finals, possibly winning more finals with this unit. Again, there may be some slight changes around the margins considering the new CBA and free agency and everything that's going to happen. But ultimately, the core, you think, would stay together. The Lakers are in such disarray. They don't even have a head coach. You don't know what's happening with LeBron. LeBron's aging out. AD's aging out. You have a core there that's not nearly as talented as what they have in Boston. It just looks like whatever era of winning a championship for the Los Angeles Lakers, whatever that era was, it has come and it has gone. And I feel like it's going to be a very long time until we see another Los Angeles Lakers championship parade. And that is a direct contrast to what the Boston Celtics are dealing with. I would not be surprised in 5 years they have another one, maybe 2, and you will not see that in LA. Oh, yeah. So I'm going Lakers for sure. They are hot right now.
They could have 3 more.
I don't know what you're talking about, Ash. They won the in-season tournament. There's a banner.
Right, I'm sorry.
Hung that banner.
Did they get a ring for that? I thought they got rings for those too.
Yeah, I missed the parade. Bill and I live in LA. I don't remember watching that parade.
You know what's funny though about, real quick, the funniest thing about this whole Lakers thing is that they won the bubble championship. They postponed their parade. Yep. They were supposed to have the parade once the COVID restrictions let up. The Bucks went ahead, won a championship, threw their parade, and the Lakers still haven't had theirs. Their moment has come and gone. It is over. It's done.
It's over. That had to be brutal for them to watch. You mentioned, though, 2 guys that you could be happy for because, yeah, as I've mentioned, I live in Boston for a little bit. I have friends from Boston. I hate when they have good things. They always have good things. But the players on the Celtics, there are a couple who are easy to root for. And 2 of them that you mentioned, Ashley, Jrue Holiday and Al Horford, I've gotten to interview many times. They're 2 of the best people in professional basketball. They're consummate professionals. So it's easy to root for those 2 guys. But I'm interested what you guys think about a question that our podcast producer, Aaron, brought up, which is whether or not this makes those 2 guys Hall of Famers. And we should remember that this is a basketball Hall of Fame and not just an NBA Hall of Fame. So a lot of different things go into it. But Jrue Holiday, he's only made 2 All-Stars, but he's a 2-time NBA champion now, and he's 6-time All-Defense, and he could very well end up with 2 gold medals after this summer. And then Al Horford, he was on that list of most playoff games ever without a title. Now it's just Karl Malone by himself over there. But
poor Karl.
Al Horford, terrible. Al Horford, 5 All-Stars. He's made an All-NBA. He's made an All-Defense. He was on the All-Rookie team. Now he's an NBA champion. Are we putting either of these 2 guys into the Hall?
I would lean more towards Jrue Holiday than I would Al Horford.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I go the other direction.
Really? Why?
I will say this. I think in general, just philosophically for me, I think too many people go in the Hall of Fame. I do subscribe to the Hall of really, really good is a little underwhelming sometimes. But based on the standards of how they actually operate and what's going to happen, I think because of the collegiate career. So I also probably don't value gold medals as much as I should, because if you make the national team for USA, you better get a gold medal. So I don't know that I would consider the same thing if a few years from now Luka Doncic has a gold medal or more likely Victor Wembanyama at some point.
So do you not think that Melo is a Hall of Famer?
So do you want to fight? I actually get along
this is
so
tricky. Tread lightly, Bill.
I'm just saying. Do you not think Melo's a Hall of Famer?
Yes, he is. He is, but I actually think it's more borderline than most people. I don't think it's a slam dunk. I would put him in, but I would have probably a more robust conversation and debate than you would. And if Melo's a difficulty for me and he's in, I can't get Jrue Holiday in. And Jrue Holiday is one of my absolute favorite people in the NBA. And this has been 5 or 6. Whenever this network launched and I had a show on there, every time I had an NBA player on, I would ask, who's the most underrated player in the NBA who's not a teammate of yours or you? And I must have asked it to 30 people, and 7 people randomly said Jrue Holiday. So there's also like a level of respect for Holiday across the league that I think is now the rest of us, or at least the casual fans, are catching up to. So, Ash, it's like the Finals MVP vote. You put Jrue Holiday in, I'm not mad at you. I would not put him into the Hall of Fame, but I think I would put Al Horford.
Okay, so then explain to me the logic of how you can go ahead and put Al Horford in the Hall of Fame over a two-time All-Star, a two-time world champion,
All-Star.
two-time gold medalist, six-time defensive player, all defensive player of the year. Or, I'm sorry.
I think Horford's had a better career.
All defense, rather.
Look, All-Star to me is a little bit of a misnomer because it's voted by fans, and if you're on a really good team and you have a good season, I know All-Star is valued. I think All-NBA is much more valuable. Horford's collegiate career to me is a huge, that is an accomplishment that is really, really rare.
It was like 50 years ago.
The playoff wins, I mean, there's not an expiration date. This isn't a crime. It's not a statute of limitations.
I'm just saying. I understand when you talk about the Basketball Hall of Fame, you do have to go ahead and incorporate the collegiate career. But I think that once you're in the NBA, I think that your NBA career, your professional career, has to go ahead and supersede what you do as a college player. I'm not saying you erase what somebody has done in their collegiate career, but if you want to talk about what someone has done in their professional career out of the two of them, I feel like Jrue Holiday is miles ahead of Al Horford.
It's just a lift for me.
Really?
Miles. I mean, look, I respect it. I just don't see it that way.
He's a two-time world champion. It's miles.
I mean,
it is 100% more championships than Al Horford has. So he does have the extra one. But I'm going to settle the debate for both of you. I think they should both get in. They both had amazing careers. I mean, Al Horford, to Bill's point, his collegiate, I'm deciding that it's settled. They're both getting in because Al Horford mentioned, or as Bill mentioned, his collegiate career should factor in that it is the Basketball Hall of Fame. And then Jrue Holiday, super, super underrated. And, the Olympics, while you should win a gold medal when you're on Team USA, you still have to actually do it. The world has caught up to the U.S. I mean, there's some good competition out there, and we're going to see that in Paris. All right, another break for us. Yeah, it's a really good team. I'd be shocked if they don't win it. Another break for us, and then we got to talk about Luka and Kyrie and the Mavericks and what we think about the run that just ended for them. That's coming up on Beyond the Arc right here on CBS Sports Network. Welcome back to Beyond the Arc, Tuesday edition. The Boston Celtics are NBA champions and the Dallas Mavericks are not. How do we feel about how you want to start with Luka? Let's start with Luka. He looked a little sluggish in the last game. He didn't make a three until under 9 minutes left in the fourth. I didn't think, at one point he had more turnovers than assists. I didn't think that he looked his best. The Mavs got bounced out. I wonder, Bill, you mentioned this earlier, whether or not this will be a learning experience for him. What's your evaluation of Luka?
Yeah, and to his credit, a reporter, I don't know who it was, gave him the opportunity to make the "are you injured" excuse. I don't know if you all saw this, but in the press conference said, "How hurt are you?" And Luka said, I'm out here, I'm fine. Look, I don't think he played particularly well. And outside of Game 4, which counts, but Boston didn't show up for that game, so the Mavericks were sort of playing against nobody. He was underwhelming for much of this series. I think that so Luka needs to be in better shape. He needs to stop chirping at the officials. He needs to be better early on, probably be more efficient. And we all know, if you're around the league, that nobody can reach Luka Doncic. The only person that's going to reach Luka is Luka. And so this experience, if watching the Celtics celebrate, if the heartbreak, this happened to LeBron in 2011. If it helps Luka grow up a little bit, or maybe that's too much of a pejorative statement, or just sort of okay, I want this and I got to do these other things to be a champion because it's hard, then he'll fix it. But John Ash, I don't think he played particularly well. I don't think it's a permanent indictment on his career or him as a basketball player. And I think the big question is unanswered, which is how does he respond to this going forward? And it's going to be hard because the Western Conference, we talk about this a lot. It ain't the East. He could be the best version of himself in the next 6 years and never get back here, right? It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that Luka, what he can do offensively. I feel like we've known that for seasons now, but I think that it has become very evident that his defense, lack thereof, and his lack of ability or desire to commit to defense is detrimental to whatever team that he is on. It doesn't matter what pieces you put around him. You can't be in the NBA and just be so nonchalant about playing defense. You can't be in the NBA and be so hell-bent on arguing with the officials that you can't get back in transition to help your team on defense. And to Bill's point, it is going to take the conversation that Luka has with himself to get him to this next tier of player that I think a lot of people think he can be based on the glimpses of what we have seen from him. Like in Game 4, for example, we saw a version of Luka who can commit to defense when he wants to. Yes. It's not like he's incapable of playing defense. He just doesn't care to, which is problematic. This is not a Mavericks team that I feel like is going to change much because they can't. They traded so much away for PJ Washington for Kyrie Irving the year prior. This is a team that's really going to only be able to get better on the margins. It's not like they're going to be able to get a massive superstar and trade away a bunch of player or picks to do so. They did that already. So you have to figure out how to make this team work. And look, this Dallas Mavericks team is young. I don't think there's a player on this team that's over the age of 28, if I had to guess, 27. I mean, their core is very relatively young. They can stay together for a while, but it's going to take Luka specifically knocking himself into a different tier of player. And for me, I've never been worried about the offensive abilities of Luka. We have seen what he can do with that basketball. We see what he can do as an assist machine. It's his commitment to defense for 4 quarters of basketball through the entirety of the season, through the entirety of the postseason, that is going to take him to a different stratosphere when we talk about superstars and when we talk about contenders and when we talk about champions. And only Luka can break the habits that he has built over the years when it comes to those things.
You mentioned a couple things in there. I think the Mavs have a couple of picks that they could potentially move, and they do have, they've been trying to get off of Tim Hardaway Jr. forever, and it's about to become an expiring contract. So now all of a sudden that has like a little bit of value. So there might be some levers they can pull there. Maybe you like throw in a Maxi Kleba, depending on like
there's
how
stuff in
people
the
feel
margins,
about him.
but it's not like monumental,
Yeah, I think that some people would argue that PJ Washington / Daniel Gafford were margins, and then that ended up working out pretty well for them. All I'm saying is there's ways for them to improve in the offseason. And you're right, Ashley, they need to improve because those two guys, their top two guys that we came into this finals saying like they might be the best offensive backcourt ever. Not enough. Mm-hmm. Clearly not enough. Kyrie was not enough in this series for sure. Now, I will credit him for how he comported himself in the finals. He was getting killed by the fans. He's won for his last 14 against the Boston Celtics. It would have been very easy. Go ahead. What?
He called him a cult. I don't know, man. He called him a cult, John.
I mean, on the whole, though, it would have been easy for him to pout. And the reason why I'm saying he handled himself pretty well is it would have been easy for him to pout. And when they pulled him out of the game, he was credited. He was giving everybody hugs for the Celtics, and he even talked about it afterwards.
When I was shaking everybody's hands, that was more of a sign of respect for their journey. They've been through an incredible 5-year span of going to Game 7s or losing in the finals. So they know what this bitter feeling feels like, being up here and answering questions about what this next year hold. And I think they used everything as motivation. They were healthy. And they really kept their head down and weren't paying attention to any of the personal accolades or individual accolades. I think they just came together as a team and were okay with each person being great in their role and selflessly putting their best foot forward. So I think we learned more than anything from this series on what it takes to not only get back to this level but win at this level. And, the Celtics are the perfect example for us.
Love the Mr. T earring. That was a nice answer, Bill and Ash. Gave him credit, gave him hugs.
Don't ask me. I love Kyrie. He can do no wrong in my eyes. But I do love this more matured, enlightened, positive. Listen, Kyrie's one of the best we've ever seen. This is not, this isn't a bad series. Doesn't override everything he is as a player. But I love his maturity. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Dallas Mavericks make a run next season if they can go ahead and figure out what to do with Luka. I like Kyrie. I'm the wrong person if you want Kyrie slander. You got to go to Bill for that.
If you want Kyrie, if you want a motivational speaker, I'm sold on Kyrie. If you want to win games at the Boston Garden and be NBA champions, he did not comport himself in the way that he needs to. Average 14 points a game. in that building here in Boston. Shot 17 or 18% from three, 34% from the field. So he can have all the nice words and impressive press conferences that he wants. To me, like, the guy's a basketball player, and he's an outstanding one, and I wish we'd seen him play at a higher level. And if he can't do that when it matters most, it doesn't matter how good that backcourt can be. They're not going to do what they want to do.
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree with you. He did not play well in that series and then ended up sinking them. When I was saying comport himself, I was just saying, like, afterwards, he did not play well.
He was likable.
He gives some nice answers and he goes, yeah. I wouldn't have been surprised to see old, pouty, angry, frustrated Kyrie pop up, and we didn't get that. So I guess growth. Growth for Kyrie. All right, one more quick break, and then we're going to wrap up Beyond the Arc right here on CBS Sports Network. Welcome back to Beyond the Arc, wrapping up a post-finals episode here. Finals was a clunker. It really was. We had a bunch of blowouts. I thought it was going to be a better series. The playoffs in general weren't really what I expected or hoped. We'll go around the horn here. Ash, like, overall impression and grade of this postseason.
Definitely was anticlimactic. It just was not, overly exciting. There weren't memorable storylines. There were some emergence of some young stars, some young teams that I think we'll see next season, hopefully back better with more experience under their belt. But a lot of it was plagued by injury. A lot of the teams that we expected to go far fell short. The Denver Nuggets didn't two-peat or even get the chance to two-peat. Therefore, my New York Knicks were fully injured, just not a fun time. I'm going C because it was average, it was mediocre, it was not memorable. It didn't quite fail, but it didn't quite succeed, so C it is.
Let's 180 this thing. I'm going to be the optimist. I'm going B. I almost went B+.
Wow.
Give me that Knicks-Sixers series to start things off. That was riveting. I got to see the rise of the Thunder, which is going to be a real thing. Anthony Edwards arrived as a star. I got to see a Dallas sort of run that I didn't see coming. That was pretty fun. I got to enjoy the Clippers losing early. Doc Rivers didn't do particularly well. And this Boston Celtics team proved me wrong and won in a uniquely different way that I thought, in retrospect, was worthy of praise. And I think taught us all something about how teams can win championships that run counter to how they tend to. And so that camouflage approach to greatness I found fascinating. And I like that it ended in 5 because I'm on the road. So good job, NBA. I enjoyed the playoffs.
You make a good pitch, and I don't blame you for being excited that it ended in 5 so you can go. But the finals was really bad. It was one of the worst least entertaining finals in a while. And I went back and looked, and I was like, 2007 Spurs and Cavs, that was a sweep. 2002 Lakers Nets, that was a sweep. It was kind of in that. Last year, at least we had the Joker run. It was a 5-game series as well last year, but it was the ascendance of Joker. So I felt like that was a little bit more fun. The only things that I really enjoyed during this postseason were Sixers-Knicks, which we got out of the gate, which was phenomenal. And then Wolves and Nuggets, when we got the rise of Ant Edwards and that whole team, and it looked like, oh man, like the Wolves proof of concept and their defense is going to take off. But then after that, it kind of just went off a cliff a little bit. I went C-. I would have even gone lower, Bill, if not for you giving me that pitch.
First grader. Okay. All right. I like it.
I mean,
it's a C.
I just would like a.
Let's try again next year, Adam Silver.
A little bit more.
Better luck next year.
We'll try again next year. We'll get a fully healthy Knicks team.
Though, guys.
that Ashley mentioned, the Knicks team that would have won it all if only they had been healthy. We'll see if they'll be there next year. The Sixers, they got 2 guys right now. Maybe they'll have somebody else too. But for right now, I guess that's going to be it for us today. We're going to be back on CBS Sports Network on Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. All 3 of us will be there. And we'll be back at it tomorrow in podcast form, wherever you get your favorite shows. So check that out. But for now, for our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, for Ashley Nicole Moss, I am John Gonzalez. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.